My name is Regina. Standing on the grand stage of the community gala, the applause thunders around me. I look out at the sea of faces, and in the corner, I spot my mother and sister. Their pale faces and darting eyes tell the story of their discomfort. But right now, all I can think about is how I got here. It all started on a fateful night. My daughter, Lily, who was just 6 years old, suddenly collapsed. Panic seized me as I realized she wasn't breathing. Without a second thought, I reached out to my family. My mother, Mrs. Thompson, was a cold and self-centered woman. She was more concerned about her social status and the parties she attended. My sister, Amy, who was 28, was just as callous, always mocking my every worry. I frantically left a voicemail, "Mom, Amy, Lily just collapsed. She's not breathing. Please come with me to the hospital." But their responses were like a knife to my heart. My mother replied coldly, "We're in the middle of something important. Can't you handle it on your own?" Amy laughed and said, "You always make such a big deal out of nothing." I wiped away my tears, grabbed my keys, and rushed Lily to the hospital. In the back of the ambulance, I held her tiny hand tightly, whispering her name over and over again, praying that each syllable would keep her with me. The sirens and flashing lights blurred around me, but all I could focus on was my precious Lily. When we arrived at the hospital, I was alone. No one from my family came to sit beside me in the cold emergency room. No one held my trembling shoulders as the doctors worked on Lily. It was just me and her, facing this terrifying situation by ourselves. Hours passed, and finally, the machine showed that Lily's chest was rising again. I stepped outside for some air, and that's when my phone buzzed. It wasn't a message of support, but a notification of a new post on social media. There were my mother and sister, raising their cocktails, smiling under perfect lighting. The caption read, "A perfect evening with no drama." They weren't just absent, they were mocking my pain in real time. I was filled with a mix of anger and determination. That night, while Lily rested under observation, I opened my laptop. With shaking hands, I forwarded the voicemail, the texts, and a screenshot of their post to a local journalist, Mr. Harris, who I knew would listen. I simply wrote, "This is what so-called family time looks like when a child is fighting for her life." By dawn, the story was out. By noon, it was plastered across every screen in town. The headline read, "Mother left alone in a child's crisis while her family parties." The world finally saw the truth that I had been carrying in silence. My phone started vibrating non-stop, but not from my family. Reporters, neighbors, and strangers were all asking the same question, "Is it true?" Messages of support flooded my inbox. People wrote, "You're not alone. We would have been there for you. Your daughter deserves better." Meanwhile, my mother's voicemail came through at 12:03 p.m. "Regina, how dare you share our private business with outsiders? People are calling us. Do you realize what you've done to our reputation?" Minutes later, Amy texted in a panic, "Delete it right now. This is so embarrassing. You're overreacting, as usual." I looked at Lily, still pale and connected to the wires, fighting for every breath. There was no overreaction, there was only the truth. That afternoon, a local news crew came to the hospital. I stood in the courtyard, my hair pulled back, exhaustion written all over my face. As the cameras rolled, I spoke calmly. I asked for help when my child's life was at stake. Instead of being there for me, they were having a party. The clip aired on the evening news, showing the contrast between my worried face and their smiling party photo. By the end of the day, the restaurant where they took the photo deleted the tagged picture. My mother shut down her social media account, and Amy locked hers. But the internet has a long memory, and screenshots were everywhere. I didn't respond to their calls. I didn't need to because the world had already judged them. Over the next few days, the story spread like wildfire. Headlines blazed across screens, and clips of my voicemail and their heartless replies played on morning news shows. My family's actions were being talked about everywhere. My coworkers, who had supported me that night, were in disbelief. One of them left flowers at my desk for Lily. Strangers started sending letters to the hospital, filled with prayers and words of solidarity. My family was in a panic. My mother left me a voicemail at 9:17 a.m. saying, "People won't stop calling. You need to tell them you exaggerated. This is ruining our good name." Amy texted at noon, "Delete everything, or I'll never forgive you." But I knew there was nothing to fix. Their actions had caused the damage. While they were trying to salvage their reputation, I was building something bigger. I launched the Stand Beside Fund with a single post. I uploaded a photo of Lily's tiny hand in mine, her arm taped, with the caption, "No parent should face this alone. If your family won't stand with you, strangers will." Within hours, donations started pouring in. Messages from parents across the country filled my inbox. They said, "This happened to me too. I thought I was the only one. Thank you for speaking out." The irony was palpable. The people who had left me at my weakest had given me the platform to make a difference. My family's silence turned into panic. My mother called and said, "Enough is enough. Take it down before this destroys us." Amy said, "You have no idea how humiliating this is. Fix it." But I didn't respond. The truth had spoken, and I was done protecting them. As Lily started to recover, I received an invitation to the community gala. It was the event my family had always loved, a place where they showed off their status. When I walked in, the crowd parted. People whispered and reached out to touch my shoulder. My mother froze near the bar, her diamond necklace trembling. Amy tried to force a smile, but her eyes were filled with fear. The host tapped the microphone and introduced me. "Tonight, we honor a mother whose courage has shown us the true meaning of family. Please welcome Regina." Applause roared as I stepped onto the stage in a simple black dress. I began, when my daughter collapsed, I turned to my family for help. But all I got was silence and mockery. But I've learned that family isn't always about blood. It can be the nurse who sits by your bed, the stranger who donates a few dollars, or the city that refuses to let your story be forgotten. Gasps rippled through the audience. I continued, "No parent should have to beg for support while their child is fighting for life. And thanks to all of you, no one will have to again." The applause was deafening. From the corner of my eye, I saw my mother bow her head and Amy fumble with her phone. The next morning, the photos were everywhere. The front page headline read, "From abandoned to applauded, Regina's story inspires thousands." In the corner, there was a photo of my mother and sister leaving the gala, their faces hidden, reporters swarming around them. My phone was filled with messages from all over. Strangers, nurses, single parents, and even politicians wrote to me, saying, "You're changing lives. Keep speaking." But my family's desperate messages also came through. My mother texted, "You've humiliated us. People won't even look at us." Amy left a voicemail, "I can't go to work. Everyone is whispering. You've ruined us." I sat at my desk, looking at the papers for the Stand Beside Fund. Donations had doubled overnight, and we now had enough to sponsor patient advocates in 3 hospitals. Lily's photo, framed beside the paperwork, reminded me of why I started this. One evening, I was interviewed on the 6 o'clock news. The reporter asked, "Do you regret sharing your family's replies?" I looked straight into the camera and said, "No. Silence only protects the cycle of neglect, and I won't let that happen." Neighbors later told me that my mother left the store in tears and Amy stormed out of work. I didn't celebrate their humiliation. The real victory was that my voice was finally louder than their dismissal. The hospital, where I had once been so alone, invited me back as a guest of honor. The auditorium was filled with nurses, doctors, patients, and families. As I entered, the same halls where I had once walked in fear now echoed with applause. Lily sat in the front row, her cheeks glowing, a pink ribbon in her hair. She waved at me, and for a moment, all the pain in my heart faded away. When I took the podium, I spoke from the heart. The night Lily collapsed, I thought my family would be my lifeline. But I learned that sometimes, strangers can become your family. And because of that, I stand here today. Applause thundered through the auditorium. My mother and sister were there, but this time, they were in the shadows. I announced the first major initiative of the Stand Beside Fund, patient advocates in ERs to support those who are left alone. As the event ended, people lined up to hug me and share their stories. My mother lingered, as if wanting to say something, but I turned away. They left unnoticed, swallowed by the consequences of their actions. A week later, the board of the Stand Beside Fund met, and the foundation became official. That evening, my mother texted one last time, "Let's talk. This has gone too far. We're family." But I remembered the coldness of their replies when I needed them the most. I archived the group chat, sealing their words like inscriptions in stone. I looked at Lily, laughing at the kitchen table, and I knew that this was the real ending. Not the headlines or the applause, but the presence of love and support. I had moved forward, no longer tethered to their approval, and I was ready to make a difference for all parents who might face similar situations.